Hello, everybody. Welcome to another brand new episode of Newsflash here on episode 450. My name is Spencer Walsh. Here is what we're talking about today. The presidential transition continues to roll on, whether the incumbent likes it or not. New announcements from Joe Biden about his presidential cabinet picks, including key members on Tuesday. We'll take a look at, with James Stanley for our main story tonight, who are the leaders for the key cabinet positions and what they mean, and some of the other kind of controversial picks Biden has already made that seem to stray from at least his fake, I guess I would call it, but some people would not call it, progressive message. We'll also talk about the young, exciting GOP rising star everyone's talking about, who also happens to be a bit anti-Semitic, and a lot of other things too. Madison Cawthorn, we'll see what he's been going. He's a religious predator who preys on members of other faiths, but he's also fun, and, you know, he's also a veteran who lost the power of walking, so... Samuel Alito pretty much has the same politics as your right-wing uncle you'll argue with over Thanksgiving. That is, if you're still having a Thanksgiving. Good thing he has no power over our lives, right? Just kidding. He's going to be on the Supreme Court for life. Also, leftists and moderates, stop fighting. You need one another. That is the take by Michelle Goldberg, opinion columnist for the New York Times, who admitted in the past she hates the left culturally. We'll see what she has to say, and if she has a point in a new article breakdown, that is what's coming your way on episode 450 of Newsflash. My name is Spencer Walsh, and our guest today, we're pleased to welcome, is James Stanley. So, James, thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hopefully, James will also be able to talk about some of those House races, because got to tell you, James has been following all these House races very, very closely and really been analyzing what the Democrats have been doing wrong and the policies of the losing members. So that's going to be important to, I think, recognize and go through. So hopefully we'll have time for that with all the other stuff we're going to be talking about. But key news here, some news trickling in from various sources, James, say about Biden's cabinet. President-elect Biden is planning to formally announce key members of his White House staff, tapping Cedric Richmond of Louisiana to oversee public outreach, and installing Jen O'Malley Dillon, who successfully managed his presidential campaign as deputy chief of staff. Of course, Ron Klain is going to be the chief of staff. Biden will also announce that Steve Ricchetti, longtime confidant and really big Wall Street and corporate guy, will serve in the White House as a counselor to the president. Some of those three will have really offices down the hall from the Oval, making them among the most senior aides in the West Wing. Richmond will inherit a job once occupied by Valerie Jarrett when she worked in the West Wing for former President Barack Obama. Kelly and Conway served as counselor to the president, the job that Ricchetti will take, and O'Malley Dillon will see White House operations for Biden. So those three, what are those positions? How important are those positions, James? Just give us a little bit of perspective and tell us a little bit more, if you can, about the people who will be occupying them in terms of how they will shape Biden's policy.
Yeah, I mean, Biden is really messing around with a lot of people, to say the least. In some of his in some of his possible appointees, definitely pleasantly surprised with a good amount of the departments. In regards to Department of Transportation,
we'll get to that. We'll get to that. But just these three we'll start with. Just quick.
Which three again? I apologize.
Ricchetti, Steve Ricchetti with as counselor of the president, Cedric Richmond, and Jen O'Malley Dillon.
Oh yeah, I'm not really too shocked Biden chose these people. He's really. What I'm noticing with Biden is with a lot of his close appointees and people he's choosing to be close with him, like chief of staff, as he chose last week, actually, people who are relatively, he's been around when he was vice president. I mean, the guy who he chose for chief of staff was his chief of staff as vice president. Jen O'Malley, which, pretty much a party insider for the Democrats. She's definitely not as talkative as, like, for example, like Kellyanne Conway, these other people from Trump's administration. But I am overall not really too shocked that Biden chose people like this, because, I think he's looking for just, going back to what he thought was kind of quote unquote normal. And the problem I have with that is I think we kind of need a little bit more change in the White House. And, I don't think Biden's going to do that whatsoever. But am I surprised? I'm not really too surprised with his decisions with who he's going to have in his cabinet that are going to be very close to him, like his chief of staff and others.
Yeah, that definitely seems like pretty much nothing here too surprising. I definitely agree. Some of his closest and most longtime confidants will be occupying these roles. So it's definitely nothing very surprising at all. So he's going to be announcing that tomorrow. And let's take a look at some of these broader contenders here. And I do want to give you kind of a just one by one. Let's go through them and let's take a look at who we are looking at. Let's start with defense. Really quick, Michelle Flournoy. Apparently, this is Michelle Flournoy's job to lose. So she has had a long time history is as a leader of the Pentagon. She is kind of considered centrist. She's a policy wonk with significant management experience in co-founding the Centrist Center for a New American Security, which is literally gibberish to anybody with kind of a normal brain. She's been active in recent months, including co-authoring a blueprint this summer on how the Pentagon needs to accelerate efforts to develop new technologies to outpace China. So kind of the very boring but also kind of important stuff there. For her, the department's role needs to take on a portfolio far beyond traditional military preparation. Who cares what she said? Also on the short list are Tammy Duckworth and Jack Reed, Rhode Island senator, former Rhode Island state senator, and retired Army captain, but most likely they're going to be going to Michelle Flournoy. So pretty much this is, again, another great pick for the status quo, for the Pentagon, for people who want to see things go back to the way they were before. So pretty much where you could still do drone strikes as much as you wanted, but you would be doing them with a little less reckless abandon, and you wouldn't be like threatening to start wars all the time, just doing it in a very respectable, normal way, but still saber-rattling, still driving that endless war machine. So, again, nothing for anybody anti-war here to be excited about at Secretary of Defense.
I completely agree. And speaking of like all the three candidates that are on that list, I would definitely, if I had to choose any of the three, I would not, pick. Of these three, I'm not really too fond, like 100% of all of them. But Tammy Duckworth, I definitely would say, is probably the better one of all these three for this position, because Tammy Duckworth actually has taken a relatively war as last option mentality. I don't think she's really anti-war. I think she's more of, let's not do war until it's like the last ditch we have to. Whereas Michelle Flournoy, she has had a little bit of a bouncy record in regards to like what she said in the past, because she actually like applauded a lot of these drone strikes that you just mentioned not too long ago.
Because it's really so similar. I think if I could just add to immigration, like the policies between the Trump administration and the Obama administration are not good. They are the continuity, like the gap there. If you really push for it, the differences are. Like, the really only main difference is, like, the Trump administration was a lot more kind of openly cruel.
Yeah, it was openly cruel, and the media kind of portrayed them as much more cruel. And also, on top of it,
yes, that's true.
I think Biden is I think he's gonna have to be different than Obama in regards to immigration. And the reason why I say this is because at the time when Obama was in office, like, think about, like, the progressive movement was not nearly as big. I'm not saying he's gonna be a progressive whatsoever, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on him to not do the things that Obama and himself, both of them made the decisions for the country during Obama's administration. A lot of them are pretty bad on immigration, especially since, like, the family separation, people don't know, didn't start under Obama. It actually was under, didn't start under Trump. It actually was under Obama. But the media portrays it as
and of course, this could be a great time to get into it, or maybe a little bit later. Cecilia Munoz, who defended the family separations under Obama, has just joined the Biden transition team as well. So she will be serving. She's President Obama's former top immigration advisor. She's going to join the transition team, hopefully not in the White House. This is the 2011 interview clip everyone's been talking about. At the end of the day, when you have an immigration law that's broken and you have a community of 10 million, 11 million people living and working in the United States illegally, some of these things are going to happen, even if the law is executed with perfection. There will be parents separated from their children. We don't have to like it, but it is a result of having a broken system of laws, and the answer to that problem is reforming that law. So it is really kind of it's really kind of the very, very disappointing, or not really disappointing, but it's going to be interesting, I guess is the right word to say, to watch liberals who have just spent the past 2 years just with their mouths agape at the horror and just the awfulness of the family separation policy under Trump, which is absolutely awful, try and defend this quote. And especially if Cecilia Munoz ends up in the White House having said policies like family separation, they just happen. Like, where it's going to be very, very interesting to see what kind of hardcore Biden supporting liberals have to say to that and how much credibility they're going to lose over it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, the double standard is going to be right front and center on the stage. And, it even goes back to the time when Obama was in office, because like a lot of the people who were adamantly against family separation, or at least expressed their quite frankly hatred towards this policy, it might just be me though, I didn't see any of this anger and frustration given towards Obama when he had similar policies in place, nor did I see any type of anger or frustration given to Obama when he made decisions, like for example with Trump and the almost going to war with Iran practically a year and a half ago. There was no anger or frustration with what Obama was basically on the verge of doing. Again, I mean, he was questioning the idea of taking our troops out of Syria. Like he was actually saying maybe we should put more and more and more, which for many years we actually did put more under the table. I didn't see any discuss for that. So the double standard is quite frankly, it was apparent under Obama and especially under Trump with the anger and frustration towards him on many policies. And I actually quite eagerly am waiting and am eagerly going to enjoy to see the double standard right center on the front stage in this time around with the family separation policy, which I think the only way Biden's going to get rid of it is because of the public hatred. But I honestly, at the same time, would not put my trust or put money down onto the table that Biden would get rid of it.
Yeah, definitely not. It's definitely a very open question to see if the public pressure and all the times that Biden has said it is ridiculous to separate children from their families, it's ridiculous to do this, if that is going to carry over into a much better immigration policy. Here's another crazy, crazy pick for me, which is leading at Secretary of State is literally the woman responsible for the biggest headaches and the worst foreign policy mistakes throughout the Obama administration. Also, I believe an Iraq War supporter as well. If I may be wrong on that, but Ambassador Susan Rice back for another round at Secretary of State. How about that? That is going to be a fun Senate confirmation, by the way. Just an a pick that makes no sense to me. Would have been even worse as vice president, but back at Secretary of State somehow. James, what's your take on this?
I mean, again, it literally goes right back to the point I just made, a double standard. I mean, Biden was pretty adamantly. I mean, he even, was saying about, I mean, on the primary in the debates, for example, when he was questioned and, attacked upon his role with the Iraq War and his overall support of it. He really just walked away from it. And again, it goes back to the point where Biden is just going to choose people who he really kind of trust and will just be, on the same page with him ideologically. Susan Rice is a warmonger.
Doesn't look like actually she did support the Iraq War from what I'm looking at, but it's all just one column.
I know that she was very, very
she was
horrendous with drone strikes. So
yeah, she was involved in Libya as well, if I'm not mistaken. In Benghazi, that was a big one. Like that, just
all these...
taking that through the Senate confirmation with Mitch McConnell is going to be